All right, we are live here with another episode of Fight on Montana. Thank you for listening. Those people that are not listening or not viewing us on YouTube, you can get onto the FCS Fans Nation YouTube channel. You can watch us there. You can also find us on any platform, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere where you can get a podcast. You can find us there. We have a great episode. We're going to go over the spring game, but Luke and I are here. Angel could not make it, but we have the one and only Lucas. Semb, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, no problem, no problem. I'm in Wyoming. Luke, he's in South Dakota,
Yep.
and you are in Missoula still. How are things going? Where can Grizz Nation find you and give you a shout out? Because we really appreciated what you did for Grizz Nation and just how you covered the Grizz.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Like I was telling you guys, I like it too much here to leave yet. So we'll be sticking around at least through the summer. The goal would be to have another Division I beat for football by the fall. And if that doesn't work, hopefully basketball by the winter. So we'll see what happens. Going to take my time and just enjoy a Montana summer. I'm really excited for that. So I'll be around for a while yet.
Awesome. Well, and this is your first Montana summer, right?
Yeah, I haven't got one yet. Got here in September and it was decent out. And then I don't ever remember what that feels like. So excited for the summer.
Amen with that. Yeah, we've gotten over like 70 inches of snow here, so it's been crazy. I don't know what, Luke, you've gotten, but I'm totally down for spring.
Yeah, I think the whole north we're sick of snow. ready for spring and then summer, especially up in Missoula. You'll have to go float the Blackfoot and just enjoy everything that the summer in Missoula brings.
Yeah, I've been taking in all the recommendations. I'm ready to get across the state too and do the parks, and because we've never been out in this part of the country, so that'll all be brand new for us.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of that.
Nice. Well, hey guys, we're just going to go over the spring game. If you have not heard, the coaching changes and everything, we'll get you caught up. This is your one-stop shop to get caught up. So let's kind of go over the coaching changes. There were a couple new coaches, but a lot of just like trading positions on the offensive side of the ball. Brent Pease goes from wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator and QB coach. That was the big one. Bryce Erickson goes from tight end to wide receiver. Rob Fennessy goes from the offensive analyst to tight ends and tackles coach. And then the big drop down, I would say, and I hate to say drop down, but you would have to think that it is. Tim Rosenbach, offensive coordinator to the offensive analyst and recruiting and high school relations person. I have no clue. I don't know if they just like threw something on there for that, but I've never heard of a position like that. So that's awesome if they're kind of expanding that. But what were you guys' thoughts on that? And how my thing when I saw that is how in the world are we going to have two line coaches that are coaching two different positions? Kind of like went into that, and I saw Florida kind of does that, but not too many schools do that.
Well, I'll hop in. I mean, I know Chad personally, Germer, and I guess I don't see an issue with it because I think Fennessy, what more so is going to focus on the tackles and the tight ends, meshing together. And I think we could see, I know I'm not sure what offense Pease is going to run, but I know when he was at Boise State, he did a lot of motions and stuff and used the tight ends a lot. And so that could be the reason why we're going to have that focus is almost like a hybrid tight end tackle position. And just so we can have a lot of different formations would be my thinking. And then Chad is going to focus much more on the guards and centers, which we could see some more pulling out of there and stuff. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, when I was there, we had two defensive line coaches, one for interior and one for the DNs, and it worked. So I think it's almost nice to focus on that, especially with all the offensive line we have. So.
Yeah, I think with the offensive line, you're going to get more specialization, which talking to the players, they really like it. And you're going to be doing things more specific for exactly where you're playing. But I just wonder how they're going to put the pieces together. Which coach gets the final say on exactly how things will go up front? How are they going to make everything fluid together?
Mhm.
With all the polls and whatever other schemes you have going on up there, because they got to be on the same, on the same page.
Yeah.
So I just wonder how they're going to put that all together and who will get the final say. But I think in terms of specific skills, I think it'll be good for that. Seeing it on the field together will be a different thing. But it's becoming, like you said, Florida does it, increasingly more popular that a lot of Power 5 schools are starting to do that more and more as the years go by, it seems.
Yeah, well, and this is the communication too. I'm sure they're going to be practicing with each other, but like how do they just integrate it and come together? Because tight ends are way different than inside line, and how you're the offensive line is so pivotal on communication and everything like that. It just seems like, hey, if it works and they've got it down, I'm sure they've got some type of structure down that it's going to work, but man, it could be one or the other, right?
Well, my feeling is too, they're going to work together a lot. It's going to be a lot of both Chad and Fenn working together. And the thing is too, you got to think those guys have been working with each other for years. Bobby's first stint, Fenn was the OC, and then Chad was the offensive line coach. And so I think they've always gotten along well. So I think it's going to be kind of just them working together, and not so much separated at practice. So
yeah, definitely. So let's go down to the defensive side of the ball. Kent Bear and Barry Sachs, they leave the program. Ronnie Bradford goes from cornerbacks coach to defensive coordinator and safeties. Roger Cooper goes from safeties to linebackers, and that's probably more of a more real fit for him since he played linebacker as well. Kim McLeod goes from the defensive analyst to the cornerbacks coach. Mike Linehan goes from D-line is going to be coaching the D-line. He was from San Diego State. And then Tim Houck is our defensive analyst, which is cool to see. There is so many, and they're great guys, and I'm sure that just with who they are, it works. There are so many probably well-rounded guys in the coaching staff that I'm sure it works, and iron sharpens iron. But man, in this day and age of trying to make a name for yourself, you would think that sometimes you're going to have some matches where you're like, okay, I'm going to dig in, and they're going to dig in, and I'm sure as a good coaching staff, you have those and you kind of work through them. But it seems like it's coming together. It's going to be really interesting to see what this defense does because we've lost a lot of guys from last year.
I wish I could talk more about the assistant coaches, but you know how it goes at Montana. They don't really let us even talk to them, but they'll roll out full feature stories on the coaches. So to tell you a little story, like the last practice I went to, I was standing on the sideline and Peace was working with the quarterbacks, and I'm just standing off to the side, and he goes, I'm wearing a Princeton sweatshirt. And he goes, hey, Princeton, who the hell are you? And I'm like, Lucas, I work at the Missoulian. Like a full season had gone by, and he didn't even know who I was. That kind of goes to show how much of a relationship we have with them. But like you mentioned, a lot of these guys have done, talking to the defensive side of the ball, have done different things. They've done different roles. I think when you're on the defense, any side of the ball, you coach a certain position, but you've all played the game. You've all coached the game. Like you have to know a little bit about everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like Coop was the defensive coordinator at Idaho State. And now he's kind of manning that quarterback position of the defense in the linebackers, and he's got Levi Janicaro, a great guy to lead that group. I think that's where the defense is going to have to, start this year, in that linebacking group right there with Levi, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I think the offense is going to be good this year. I think it's going to be really good, actually. The defense is going to have a lot of growing to do, so we'll see how that goes, but it's going to have to start with the vets.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited for Ronnie Bradford too. I think he could be a great defensive coordinator, and I was glad to see that that's who they promoted to that position when they decided to. So,
well, and just like not to dish on the coaching staff, but he's the one guy that is out there on social media, and is taking that effort. I know Bryce Erickson does as well. And then all the other coaches kind of do their own kind of thing with, posting pictures of their guys and stuff. But, Ronnie Bradford really goes when he's recruiting, he goes out there and he shows pictures of himself and stuff like that, which is really cool. Kind of a new age of doing that. So it's always kind of nice to see.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, you have to, especially with, Bobby, who's a bit more traditional, and people wonder about, well, are they going to get guys, and how do they keep up with schools who are facilitating social media more? And like, for example, like since I lost my job at the Missoula, and people have been like, your use of new media has impressed me, and getting different offers, like, how could you come here? And to me, I'm just like, I don't think anything about it. I'm like on Twitter every day, just
right.
fun. So I just know how to use it. But that's a thing that everyone is just so interested in, like, and it actually makes a difference, weirdly enough, to say, if a coach is going to use Twitter or something in recruiting, well, the kids like to see themselves and hear about themselves, and it's just the way it goes. So I think it's important to have a guy like that at the head of it.
Exactly. And after the spring game, guys, we find out that some players are leaving. This usually happens. It's nothing out of the ordinary, but just kind of like who was leaving kind of shocked me. Jacob McGorn has retired from football. I know that in one of the practices, I think he tore up his knee.
Yeah, I heard he wasn't going to be back maybe halfway through the season, and I think that's why he called it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, law school, if these guys already have their degrees, why, spend another 6-8 months here when they can start their lives, and then Camden Casper leaving the team, I think he had a shoulder injury. I think he actually hurt that when he was at Billings Central, and it's still giving him trouble. So he's leaving the team to deal with that. It kind of seemed like a goodbye kind of thing. I don't know if he will come back to the team. It was kind of vague. But Lucas, do you know anything about that, or?
I do not. That was unfortunately after my time. So
okay.
I've just been trying to get things together. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of that.
Yeah, definitely kind of out of the nowhere when our team is kind of in the need of a kicker and a punter. So. Kevin Macias is our kicker, but punting is going to be definitely interesting to see who
you mean Ramos.
That. What's that?
You said Macias, isn't
Macias? Oh, did I say Macias? Oh my god! I was like,
I wish we had money Macias.
I know, right? Goodness gracious! Oh man. Anyways, yeah.
Because Ramos got an extra year.
Yeah.
Him and what's his name? The big boy from Nebraska. I'm blanking.
Chris Walker.
Walker. Thanks.
There you go.
Walker.
Yep.
I saw him at Walmart yesterday. Just a giant dude.
He's a massive human.
Yeah, crazy. But they do have that freshman coming in, Brayton Boyer. I got a story on that done, coming from New Jersey. I don't know if he was super recruited. I don't think he was super recruited at all. I think the Grizz were his only D1 offer. Huh. And he was a late add into the class too. So, but he can punt and kick. So they might have something for him as well. So.
Well, and I know they brought some other guys in there too. And I saw Cameron Ramnison transfer from Rocky, and then Noah Hughes. I saw him punting at the spring game, I think, and I've heard that he was from Cincinnati, but I don't know if it's like from Cincinnati, Ohio, or if it's from the University of Cincinnati. That's kind of up in the air. No one's really confirmed that, but
he actually played at Butler.
Did he really?
So I said he's going to have a revenge game. He's going to be pinning them deep here at home.
There you go. That's interesting. Play his old team. Nice. Well, hey guys, let's get into this spring game and what you guys thought. One thing that I kind of took away from it was kind of interesting that you had your first team and your second team, and I believe that the maroon was the first team, the white is the second team. Did you guys kind of get that kind of picture?
Had some of them mixed. From my understanding, the coaches drafted a little bit, but it did feel more like your ones were more of the maroon and your twos were the whites, is kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, Gubner was a white, but they didn't even let him play.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it would have been kind of interesting to just pit your ones versus number ones and your twos versus twos, because like you really want to get some work in, you want to get better. So that was kind of an interesting kind of thing where I saw that. But what were your guys' initial thoughts? And then we'll kind of go into it with offense and defense.
I'll go first. Like I said, I think the offense is going to be super good this year. I think Vidlac, people, there's that debate, like, why do we keep bringing in guys for 1 year and then they're gone? And then there's the people who, they want someone to stick in the program, and that's not always the case these days with the transfer portal. But I think Vidlac can be both. Like, he's already done that bouncing around. I don't know how much more of that he's going to want to do. And so he could be the long-term option, and he's also the option for right now. And you saw in the spring game, he puts the ball where nobody else but his receivers can get it. That first, and knowing, the stakes, like everyone's watching him, he's the projected number one. His first drive was a little shaky. He had some big overthrows. And then after that, it was just money the rest of the way. I think he only had, I don't want to say something wrong, but like 3 or 4 incomplete passes.
He was throwing dimes after that first drive.
And they didn't even play, Junior and Nick Osmo and Cole Grossman, and like their best weapons didn't see the field. And granted, they're playing against a defense we'll transition into that's going to need some help this season and someone to step up in a big way. And when we do the position breakdowns, we'll talk about that. But that's my initial thought. Offense, really good. Defense, not very good.
Yeah, definitely. Luke, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I agree. I was really pleased with Xavier Harris and just watched him run. It feels like he's gotten a lot stronger and stuff. And if he can stay healthy, I mean, we have a pile of running backs. Like Lucas just said, Osmo didn't even play. And Gilman looked good. Harris looked really good. And then on the other side of the ball, Childs looked, I thought, really good too. So, I mean, that gives me confidence, and all the offensive linemen that we have. I was trying to watch to see how Cannon did. I think that the new big boy.
Panfilov or
I didn't the cover, because I watched the YouTube. I didn't get to watch it live. And so I didn't get to see a ton of him, but I'm very excited about our offensive line. And I mean, hearing Bobby talk, he's really confident in them. It's nice to see all these big guys. And I was just looking down the roster. We have a lot of young guys that are big guys too. And so it feels like we finally have some beef up there. But like Luke was saying, my biggest concern is the defense. The one guy that we didn't get to see play that I really think is going to be a big impact player is this Riley Wilson. I've been hearing a lot of good things out of him. He didn't play, but I'm like, I think they said Bobby said he's one of the best linebackers he's seen in a while, which is huge coming from him, considering the linebackers that we have. I mean, Janikaro was still all over the field in the spring game. So I still am just being a former defensive guy. I'm still optimistic that we'll do well, but we definitely need some more help there. I think we're going to have to try to find a few more transfers in the offseason and stuff. So
let's go in the offense and kind of go through position by position. Like you guys said, QB, Semb Vidlac was amazing. The first initial couple drives overthrowing, but I like to see, I'd rather him overthrow than underthrow. At least he's trying to lead his guys. And so that's what I love about Semb, is that he was leading his guys. He was putting balls where if his guy couldn't get it, no one else could. Where I think we've had some quarterbacks in the past that either it was right there or it was behind, or it just wasn't as smooth. And he seemed like I wish he would have started here, right? He committed and then kind of went to Oregon State, and I totally get the guy, wanting to be close to home and then going to Boise State and just wanting to be able to find a home. I'm glad he came back to us, but you go from there, you go to Chris Brown, which I think it looked like he felt a little bit more comfortable in what they were doing. I feel bad for him because I think he's got a tremendous talent. He's just, I don't believe he's been used the right way in the play schemes. And then after that, you kind of drop off, and you really didn't really see AJ Abbott. I don't really think you really saw what he could do. They're kind of using him as more of a running quarterback, which from all purposes, he broke Andrew Luck's passing or touchdowns. I think we didn't really get to see him pass. And then, you've just got young guys after that and more young guys coming in. What were your guys' thoughts on the QB position, and where do you think we go from here?
Yeah, I don't want to, really make comparisons. They're just college guys, but I thought the world of Lucas Johnson last year. And I think he ended up just through the injuries and the Idaho game starting everything, just ended up almost getting the yips and he couldn't get out of it. Super talented guy, but he wasn't necessarily a quarterback in my eyes. You look at Vidlak, he's a quarterback. He's got a huge arm. He can, and he's smaller than they say he is. They list him at 5'11". He is not 5'11". But he's got a huge arm, and his vision over the field is so good. I saw with Lucas a few times last year. Granted, he gave you a better, running option if things broke down.
Right.
But sometimes he'd telegraph those passes, and it led to a few. Again, I go back to Idaho because that game just stands out to me. The final 2 drives, 2 interceptions. Yep. But everyone in the stadium knew where he was throwing the ball.
Right.
With Vidlak, I don't think you see any of that. He's a real quarterback, really good. Getting into Chris Brown, you said it, and it's a very unpopular opinion, it seems like, at least as far as social media goes, but I think he's super talented. I think he's got a huge arm. I think he's a strong runner. He's a big dude. He's just a good athlete. Part of it is not being in the right schemes for his talent. I think part of it as well is not knowing how to use his talent yet. I think to the Sacramento State game last year where he had to come in, he'd scramble out and there would be 15 yards of green in front of him, and he'd run off out of bounds, or he'd dump off a little 5-yard pass, just a check down pass. And I'm not sure that he's there IQ wise to see the field and know what to do and how to use his abilities. And the clock's definitely ticking on it, but I think with some right coaching, he could be a great number 2 option.
When you say with Sam too, he doesn't have the running ability, but his footwork, man, it was blurry. Luke, I was just like you as you're watching the YouTube footage, but his ability to step up into the pocket the right way to find where he can bide himself some time really did a couple of those passes. I think his first pass, he stepped up into the pocket and threw it to, I believe it was Kellen White. If I'm mistaken, sorry about that. But just able to make those right moves. Totally agree with you on that. But after that, we need 2 quarterbacks. We haven't had a quarterback go the full season since, I believe, Jordan Johnson in, 2011.
Yeah.
So it's been 10 years plus that we've had a quarterback be able to stay healthy. So we've got to have a proficient number 2. And I think if this is what we're going to be going into, with what we've seen, we can't, you can't look at that game and say, oh, this is what we're going to be. They're not going to show you anything during that spring game. If you believe that, then that's just nuts. They're not going to show you anything. They're not going to show you what we're going to be running. But they did show you a couple different things. I liked how they used the screen passes and where they're pulling some of the guards there as well. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. So I think that could be really well for Chris Brown, is where he's getting those fast passes off to his playmakers, where I think Luke and I have been saying that forever. Just get your balls to the playmakers and let them do their thing. I think he would be a good number 2 guy. I preferably don't think you need to go in the transfer portal and get a quarterback, because then you're just taking another spot where you could go get another defensive lineman or a cornerback, where I think those are the positions where I think we'll get into it, but those are the needed spots where I think we need to go. Luke, what are your thoughts, man?
Well, I think with Pease running the offense, he is traditionally more, the traditional quarterback offense, which is advantageous to Vidlak and Chris Brown.
Yep.
In fact, I thought Chris threw some good balls in the spring game and stuff, and didn't look terrible. Like Lucas said, he's a big guy. I just think you need the right scheme, and I think Pease can find that for him. one of the biggest things I was really surprised at, though, was the fact that they were letting him hit the quarterback. Especially with Pease being the offensive coordinator. When I was this was 20 some years ago, when Pease was a coach there last time, I was at a high school camp and I got thrown out of camp because I hit the quarterback. Pease threw me out of camp.
Really?
Yeah. And he let me back in later after that scrimmage, but I was not allowed to even touch the quarterback anymore. And so I was just like, the fact that I know Bobby wants to, iron sharpens iron, but with, like you were saying, we can't seem to get through a season without a quarterback getting hurt. Why even risk it? And that one pass that Vidlak got hit, his arm was like all up and got jacked. And I was like, oh no. Yeah. But I know that I hadn't heard anything. So I was like, okay, he must be okay.
Yeah.
But still, even why risk it? So because
Gino Leonard
got the tangibles, he steps up. He was constantly looking downfield at his options and stuff. I mean, it's all the stuff I want to see. So why even risk it and not get hurt?
So. Yeah, Bobby's thing after the game, he was saying that they don't usually do it, but the reason he wanted to this year is because they have a bunch of dudes who just haven't really gotten live reps in a long time. Like Sam's been bouncing around because he hasn't played anywhere he's gone.
Sure.
Chris had ample amount of opportunity last year, but then he lost his job and he ended up becoming a third stringer. And then,
and Hewitt and Abbott just played scout team basically last year. So
right. He said they need to know, they have to have a sense of their timing and seeing the field and all those things. And so from that perspective, it made sense, but he kind of had a harsh attitude about it. I know you said when Gino Leonard,
oh my gosh,
he got asked about that in the press conference, and he was just like, they asked him, what were your thoughts on that? And he was like, stop him. Don't let him score. Like
that's Bobby. Stop him. Yeah, stop. Don't let him. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I did like how they let Chris Brown finish that drive though at the end of the half instead of just cutting it. They're like, okay, let's see how this goes. And so I was glad that they did that. And that's one nice thing about spring is that you can actually get those looks and stuff. So
exactly. Let's go to the offensive line. Ever since Bobby's come back, and even probably well before that, the offensive line has been where we've been waiting, right? We've been waiting for it to catch up. When Bobby came back the first time or this last time, that's where he said, we need to recruit better. We've had some lulls, I believe. That's just my opinion, where I think we lost out on guys and we didn't have any backup plans where, I believe last year's recruiting class, we only had one or two offensive line, not this one coming in. This one coming in, we've had like four or five, which I was really excited about because some of the guys that they got they're coming in and they're 6'6", 300 or big guys, which that's awesome. We can kind of develop them and kind of throw them in right away. But honestly, and I know this is probably not going to be a popular thing, but I don't know what we have still. We had a good line last year, but if you look at the rest of the Big Sky, was it top 4? And so we did really well. We're with mediocre teams, but when we played the best teams, we didn't do very well. And so I'm kind of wishy-washy with that. I'm kind of like wait and kind of see what our offensive line looks like. I think they've grown tremendously. I just think we have to start developing our offensive line, because if we don't, we can't have an offensive line where 3/5 of the offensive line is from the transfer portal. And, you look at our offensive line, you have Chris Walker, you have McGinnis, you have Forbes. All those guys are transfers. The only guys that we have that are legit recruited are Grimsrud and Casey. And even those guys, I think they got lucky into the situation where we kind of had to, right? and Bobby doesn't like to play freshmen. And so I think they were thrown into that position. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
My opinion is I think our O-line is going to be tremendously much better this year.
Yeah.
That unit has to work together, and just getting this much more time and stuff together to work together. And again, we talked about having the dual coaching. I think it's going to be a good thing. It's going to bring them together. I think Fenn and Chad work well together. and then and bringing in guys like Cannon, who started for Utah Tech. I mean, Utah Tech wasn't great, but still just having that competition. Bobby loves that, and it breeds that, that drive and stuff. And so I think we're gonna have a great offensive line, and then the young kids below them. We're not recruiting these 6'3", 240 guys. These guys are big guys that we can develop and stuff. And that's what I'm really hoping for, is see more development, so we don't have to constantly go to the transfer portal. But this is a transfer portal college. I mean, that's a part of football now. So I'm really glad though that Walker was able to come back, because I saw shades last year of him being really good, and I think just one more year is going to really benefit us.
Well, and just with Liam Brown too, you've got another guy that has played some time too. And I just to mention, I'm not saying they're not going to be good. I'm kind of out on it. I want to make sure that they're playing their best and they're doing it against good teams. That they're a good line. I'm just not going to say, hey, we're going to be top of the.
I really think our offensive line and our running back core are going to be our two best cores that we have this year.
Oh, I think so too. I think that, our running back core is probably, if not the best in the Big Sky.
Yeah. My thoughts on the O-line. I think the biggest thing about an offensive line is, all those dudes are like any school you look at for the most part, at least in the Big Sky, it's like 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", pounds. Like there's not that big of a difference in size, speed, strength. For an offensive line, to me, it just comes down to seniority, like knowing exactly what you're supposed to be doing it crisply, getting in the weight room, just getting bigger and stronger. I think the offensive line is going to be super good this year. And it's so many seniors, like all those guys you mentioned, McGinnis, Ford, Walker, Cody Canoose, and Coach said too, this is the first year where it's all his guys since coming back. And he has 5 starters, 5 backup guys set in stone for the first time since he's been back, that he said he feels like it's that as deep as it is right now, which is just as important, because those guys, go down too. So,
I literally think we have 10 guys that can play.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have. So
I
think the offensive line is going to be great, but I fall into the same trap as everyone else. It's not a glamorous spot. I'm not watching them. I don't know enough about it to like everyone else, So if there's no sacks and there's time for the quarterback, and that's how I'll tell you whether they're doing good or not. I think we'll see enough of that.
So let's go to the running back position. Probably the biggest and the best probably core right here. I saw really great things from Harris. He looks a lot bigger. I think he gained some weight. Looks really, really good. It still didn't lose any of that quickness that he in those quick moves. Gilman, I've been really high on him since they got him from Minnesota. I still don't know how he got out of Minnesota. I'm thankful that North Dakota kind of slighted him, and he feels slighted by them. So, and then you go on to where Osmo hasn't seen the time in the spring game, and then Childs kind of picked up where he left off in the game last year against North Dakota State, where he was cooking. The one thing is nowadays you have to have running back by core. I just think that where are you going to get that time, right? How are they going to split those carries? And I feel like sometimes that kind of holds back that what they can develop into. It's going to be really interesting to see. And I could be totally wrong, because North Dakota State did really well with their duo of running backs as well. I just think that they kind of worked that, and they kind of had that plan in place. It'd be really interesting to see what our plan is with the running backs that we have.
Yeah, not all of that, not to mention, but I mean, we talk about how he doesn't want to play freshmen, but Iverson, the highest recruited ever player out of high school.
Right.
And I kid you not, he's like 5'5". He's gonna be an absolute bowling ball. I'd like to see him play. We didn't get to see him in spring action, but obviously he's got the tools.
Right.
How small?
Because he showed he's there now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he was the only freshman there for spring ball. He graduated early, so I mean, that too, and he's got a full spring in, how advantageous that's going to be for him and getting
Yeah.
a leap on everyone else is just huge. But there's not like, I think Osmo's head and shoulders above the rest of the group. But after that, I think any one of them could play just as good as the next guy. So how they break it down, in my opinion, it's just going to be the hot hand. Like last year, Portland State, Xavier Harris goes crazy. And then after that, he was like in the doghouse. You just like never saw him again until 3 or 4 weeks later, people wondering where he was.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be primarily a seniority thing. Again, Bobby being a traditional guy, that's just how it goes. You pay your time and then you get a go at it. But yeah, I think that's probably how they'll split it up.
Well, and I think Xavier, the medical kind of thing has held him back, and he's kind of had the problems holding onto the ball too. And I think that's how you get in the doghouse real quick, is if you let the ball on the ground. So that will be interesting to see as well. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, I think we're lucky to have so many good running backs, because as we know, that's a position that you get dinged up. I mean, constantly. And so the fact, and that's why I'm sure they didn't play Osmo, just because of his history of injuries and stuff. So we know what we have there. Why even play him? Yep. So it was good to see X out there, and I really liked what I saw from him. Everybody's high on Gilman, and then just seeing Childs, like you said, pick up where we left off. I think that they all have their own, individually dynamic stuff that they can do, and so depending on what the defense is giving us, because we have these weapons, Pease could go, all right, we're going to play more X this week because he can get outside faster, or man, their interior line sucks, let's run Childs right up the center and Gilman and Osmo. So it gives us a lot of different things that we can do with the offense because of their different talents that they have.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lucas.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier just all the running backs having a good spring game. I know there are a few people who are saying, 10 carries for 20 yards, whatever, but they were like for Childs, for example, I think he had 8 carries for 20 yards, but those were hard-earned yards. I mean, he was bruising. It took a pile to take him down. Yeah. And that's one of his strengths. He's a power back. So I think they're all very productive.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I think one of the games at the beginning of the year, they ran 2 running backs. It'd be interesting to see if they kind of do any of that where they run 2 running backs. I think that would be kind of cool.
We had that one formation that we never saw again with the 3 in the back. Once, and it was like showed it once, never showed it again. So we could see something like that. It's like we said earlier. It's going to be interesting what Pease does when it comes to fall, because we really saw just generic stuff. Just to see what guys were doing and stuff, and that's typical. Bobby or any spring coach game, you're not going to see a lot because they don't want to give a lot, especially when we can go on there and watch it. Your competition is going to go watch what you're doing too. So they're going to keep a lot of that close to the vest.
Right. And I asked Bobby about that too. I said, were you guys trying to break this down, working on certain things each quarter, or, what was the game plan coming in? And he's like, we're just playing. So, he's just he plays everything so close to the vest. And
Kellen White said the same thing. Like basically, well, what kind of routes were you guys working on? He's like, we're just getting open. So we're just getting open running. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of things they're running this year, and just to see let's go into the wide receivers position too, and then we'll kind of go into tight ends as well, because they don't play Grossman. And they don't play Bergen. And so they're 2 probably main keys to their offense. They don't play. And, I think really highly of Fonts. He's going to have a lights out season this year. And then Kellen White just had an amazing game as well. It's going to be interesting to see who they put where and how they're using these guys, because there is a lot of talent. They always do very well of finding the talent for the wide receiver core. That's not something that they don't find that they do really well with, and they've got talent coming in as well. So what did you guys think? And what are your thoughts?
This may be an unpopular opinion, but when I think of they had guys last year that everyone loved. Like Malik was great, but was he a good wide receiver? He was starting to get there. He showed flashes of it towards the end of the year, but he wasn't a great route runner.
Better return man.
Right. We all know that his primary thing was returning the ball. I don't work for the Missoulian anymore.
There you go.
I was not very impressed with Mitch Roberts, and that's the one that I think is going to be not very liked by most people. But he was just kind of like a possession, steady hands type guy. Like he wasn't going to beat you down the field. He wasn't going to beat you to the sideline.
Yeah.
He was just like a check down, slant across the field here and there. Like he was an okay receiver. And when he's, one of your prize guys out there, that's probably not great. But now you got dynamic guys like Junior and Fonz and Keelan, guys who can beat you with their speed, guys who can beat you off the line of scrimmage. They got so many ways that they can get you. Ryan Simpson at 6'6".
Yeah,
he's
huge.
Huge target this year, literally and metaphorically. But I just think they got so many different weapons and different skill sets this year that it's going to be way more conducive to their game, especially the Peas.
Well, I thought the way Bidlack was already throwing balls to these guys, like it looked like him and Simpson had been throwing together for a while already. And that guy with this height, it's like, why not take advantage? Because the Big Sky, our corners are not that tall across the Big Sky. So take advantage of that height. And so what I'm excited for too is this summer, those guys to work closer, work more in the summertime, go throw routes with each other so they get that timing down, and then watch out because we do have some, and then Grossman too. I'm going to throw him in there with this group because even though he plays tight end, the guy is, phenomenal. He's one of these like Travis Kelce type of guys where we should be getting the ball to him down the field. He's such a mismatch.
Yep.
And damn it, I hope we take advantage of it finally because it felt like last year we sure didn't.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because, and I was talking to Coach, and this was all just like at practice, like not on the record stuff. I'm like, I obviously don't know what you guys are doing this year, but I think Cole's going to be a beast for you guys, don't you think? And he was like, yeah, he's been blocking a lot better this spring. And I'm like, no. Stop. You don't want to be using him as a blocker. If you want a blocking tight end, bring in anyone else.
Yeah.
He should be getting a look like every time down the field.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I just heard this from sources, and I'm going to say sources because I don't want to say, I don't know whether it's true or not, and I don't want to put anyone under the bus, but I heard that Cole was going to leave.
I heard that too.
And that they told him you're going to get X amount of targets per game if you stay.
Oh, well.
I heard the same thing, actually.
If he ends up watching this, Cole, I don't know if it's true or not. I think if that's actually what happened, they're very smart for that because he should be one of their main guys every single game.
Yeah, he should be getting, him and Bergen should be getting multiple targets every game because of the fact there's such mismatches against these Big Sky defenses that are out there.
They should be getting 10 targets at least a game.
Yeah, a piece.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them.
I think
Bergen, go ahead.
I think Bergen, just because of his size, he just presents as more of like your prototypical slot guy. And you mentioned earlier in the pod, they were running those inside screens. They were pulling the linemen and getting those inside screens. You get him on one of those, he's gone.
Oh my gosh,
He's good for a touchdown or two a game on one of those. So they got the pieces. You put him inside. You put Fonts and Simpson or whoever else on the outside, Keelan, and then you got Cole up the middle.
And I even think a mismatch that you can have is just like run some type of formation where you have Cole go out and play wide receiver where a linebacker has to pick him up. Right. You're screwed. You could have that every time unless they try to put a cornerback on him. Then he's just going to out maneuver him and out strength him. I always thought, and this is just a fun thing that I would love to see, is and people are going to say that why would you throw the ball in the 4th and 1 or whatever, but a package where you have Simpson and Nick Williams 6'6" and 6'5", where you just throw it to the end zone. That would be really cool. I think just go up and get it. Where, man, we've got some big wide receivers, some big talented guys. I just think that there's a lot of talent. I think hopefully with the new offense, we kind of use them better. I think Grizz Nation has been saying that for a while, where we have these playmakers. When are we going to use them?
Right.
Because if we're not going to be using them, we're going to lose them, right? Like kind of what you guys were saying or what you guys were hearing. it almost happened. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes of that, how we use it. And I totally agree with you, Lucas. Our offense is going to be our strength of our team this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, for my money, I think Junior Bergen he could arguably be the best player in the conference,
Yep.
which is crazy to me because last year, I mean, there were games where he did not even get a single target.
Right.
I think there were I can't remember the games, but I think there was a back-to-back weeks where he had one total target.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh, is he hurt? What's going on?" No, they just didn't give him the ball, and it was mind-numbing. He's one of the best talents in the conference. He's a bigger man than I am because if I knew I was that good and wasn't getting the ball, I'm out.
Yeah, we need to find ways to get him the ball because he's such a good talent. You know, one thing that was interesting listening to the spring game, listening to Grady Bennett, sorry, I had it backwards, talk about Pease and talking about the quarterback position and the offense and getting back to the days of like Dave Dickinson and Ayat and throwing the ball around and having a much more dynamic offense. So the fact that Pease is saying that, and it made it sound like Bobby was saying that too, it'll be interesting to see what happens this year with that. I mean, Pease is a good offensive coordinator, and when he did it, Boise State was awesome. So I'm hoping we get more of that, and I think that's why we had some of these guys stay because of the fact that we had this change, and they're saying, "Hey, we're going to get you the ball."
Yeah, they had a cool piece on Pease and just where he was at in Boise State as well. And so if they're pushing that out there, you've got to figure that they're going to be doing something new on the offensive side of the ball if they're pushing that.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's go to defense, guys. Like we said, probably where we're going to be not lacking, but just kind of more developing. You know, you lose Robbie Hauk, you lose now I'm going blank. Patrick O'Connell, Ford. You know, you've got a lot of guys that played a lot of downs of football, and some that hopefully are going to be going and playing on Sundays. Hopefully, knock on wood. We've got to see the talent behind it reach to where we were, right? And it doesn't mean that we don't have the talent. It's just we have to see it. And so what do you guys think about the defense? I thought, Levi had a tremendous year last year. I think he's just going to continually grow off of that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with our defense. And, and I'll say this for when we do the breakdowns, but there's some areas on the defense that are lacking, and there's some that I think are going to be very, very good. And it's just going to be interesting to see what we play. Because if I think we play that 3-3-5, I ultimately think that we have to, because we just don't have the guys, I believe, to play anything different.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, 3-3-5 is just so old. And I was wondering if maybe Ronnie would change that up, but I think this tells me who has the real call on defense, and I think it's Bobby. It probably was a non-negotiable that you can change the scheme. I personally would have liked to see them change it up. I don't know, with three guys on the defensive front, especially on a defensive front that's going to be battered this year, how you can make a push there. So I like to see them change that. We'll see what happens. And again, they might not be showing everything, and that's what I wonder. They might mix up packages. Who knows? But I would say the 3-3-5 would. I mean, I'm also not a football coach, but I'd like to see them change it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see that change as well. They didn't change it for the spring game, and I figured they wouldn't. And Bobby said that at one point he said they're going to stick with that defense, but at the same time, you've got to let your new DC have his piece in there, I think. So now, whether that's our base and we do other things off of it, I'm not sure. I'd like to see us move to more of a traditional 4-3, but the good thing is we've got guys like Gubner coming back, but they're going to double team him every game, I think. But we have people like this Riley Wilson that I have high hopes for, and the linebackers we have coming back. I think our linebacking core still is going to be really good. It seems like every year we just reload there. I mean, when Dante Olson left, everybody's like, "Oh gosh, Dante left," and then here comes Pat, and Wellnell, and we always have these guys that just seem to step up all the time. And Giancarlo was just, I was impressed with what I saw with him in the spring game and stuff. So I think my biggest question is corner again. And, just what we had depth last year finally, and it feels like we don't have depth again. Safety position, Fouch didn't play. I don't think Graves played.
No.
I have high hopes for Trajan Cotton to really step up and just get that much better this year. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with all that stuff.
And did you guys see the new Akron safety Jackson? Did you see him play?
I didn't see him.
I didn't see him either.
I didn't see him. So
it
feels like we're keeping a lot of the defense just like close and not. I think they played a lot of young guys just to see what they had and see how they did.
Yeah.
That one kid, and I don't remember his name now, the one that hit Vidlac.
Gino,
he played well.
Yeah.
Like he had a good spring game and stuff. So, we'll see what happens. But on the D line, I'm really excited about Henry Noose. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to have a really big year this year. He's one of my players to watch, if you will, on the defense is Noose. I think he could have a really big year for us. So,
you mentioned Gino. It's funny. I put out a tweet the other day about how I've been playing basketball at Steve Failer's gym. And I don't know if you guys saw that, but
yeah, I did.
and it ended up being Chase Reynolds. It's like I don't know anyone. I was playing with Gino for 4 months, and I heard him one day say something about at practice, and I'm like, "Do you play for the Grizz?" And he's like, "Yeah, my name's Gino." I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And then he just hit stick Sam Vidlac at practice. Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, there he is."
Oh, well, guys, let's go into the defensive side of the ball. One of the areas, let's go the defensive line. Luke, that's your old stomping ground. I think that we've got some really good guys for defensive end, Edwards and Houston, I think, is going to make that step with kind of getting used to. And then I think Noose plays a little bit of defensive end, and I think they threw him in at the kind of some type of packages where he was on the defensive line on the inside or something like that as well. But my thing is they've only got Gubner there. They don't have Alfred there anymore. They have Ramos, which he's going to be a bad guy, man. He is hungry as well. But I don't know why they're not getting defensive in the middle, right? And I understand that these guys, don't grow on trees, but man, well, other places are getting these guys too. And so, I just think that you've got to search for him, right? You've got to go after him, and you got to search for him. I don't think that 3-3-5, it kind of plays to the fact where you're not going to be needing that many of them. Right. And if Gubner gets hurt, that's a huge hole.
Yeah, that's one place where I think we really do need to go to the transfer portal for is another big guy down that nose technique, just to relieve Gubner, because that's a position you can't play constantly. The whole game. And our defensive line, when we're the best is when we're rotating guys through. Yeah. Same. All the defense. That's when we're the best. When you have that too deep, and you can just rotate and keep guys fresh. So I really think that's a spot that we need to get one more. Is that a big person that can help relieve Gubner inside. I think our ends are good. I think we're solid there. even with losing McGowan, which sucks, but I still think we've got guys that are stepping up. And then there's that new guy from UCLA, Hayden Harris. He's supposed to be pretty good too. Yeah. So I just think if we could get one more big guy in the middle in the offseason, that would help us a lot.
He was super tall. Holy cow. I saw him. I was like, dang, dude, sign him up to be a wide receiver. Holy cow.
Which guy are you talking about?
Hayden Harris.
Yeah, he's gigantic.
Just gigantic and just super lean. I didn't picture him being a defensive end. I was like, dang, he's fast.
Yeah, like Edwards too. Last year he got hurt a lot. If he can stay healthy, I think that kid can really do some stuff too. So
I remember Bobby saying something like he thinks Kale's the next kid who has a chance to make the league.
Oh well,
I remember him saying something like that.
I remember standing next to him last year. I had sideline passes for one of the games, and we were down there by the D line, and he was a lot taller than I thought he was on TV. I was like, damn, this kid's, and he was just in street clothes, and I was like, he's a big kid.
Yeah,
because he was hurt that game. So
yeah, well, go ahead, Lucas.
Yeah, the D line, like you lose Gary Todd, you lose Eli Alford, like you're losing depth. And not that they had Todd for a lot of last season. He'd come back and really push it. He'd give it his all, and then eventually had to call it quits. But it's hard. Now you're noticing how important they really were when you're struggling to replace them, and you got one guy. But Hayden's the guy that I'm pretty excited about. He's just Bobby doesn't like when you ask him about a player, he'll be like, yeah, I think he had a good spring. But like when you ask him about Hayden, he's like, yeah, he's really fast. He's got good bend. He's like, when Bobby gets into the little intricacies, he's excited about someone. So I think Hayden's going to be, and you can't come from a Power 5 school and not dominate at this level.
Not make an impact. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and didn't we get another guy from UCLA that didn't show up? Didn't we get another like linebacker or something from UCLA as well? I thought I had saw something like that, but maybe it was just Egres.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember that, but
okay. But it one of those things I got to go off on topic, but man, just update the roster. Like seriously, like it drives me nuts. If you want the fan base to be up to date, just update the roster.
That's like during the season, anytime someone's like, look at the 2 deep, I'm like, it's full of lies. Don't trust it. It's just lies.
There's some fans who will message me or like did during the season. They'd be like, hey, have you heard anything about so-and-so? And I'm like, I don't even know who that is. There's so many guys on the team where it's like, if you're like talking about third stringers, I'm not going to be able to tell you.
Yeah. That's funny.
Well, let's go in the cornerback position, guys. I think this is the second position on the and even I don't know. It could be even the first with defensive line. Cornerbacks got hit. You've got Corbin Walker, which he's the guy, right? He's the number one guy there. I still think he's got some glaring weaknesses in his game. He gets beat deep a lot. And then you have Gradney, who had some shining spots last year where he was finally put into some positions. Yeah, that I'm going to say his name wrong. Trevelyan from Sam Houston State. Then Dylan Simmons, who was high profiled, I believe was committed to La Tech out of Louisiana. And then one guy that I think that we got out of a steal, I believe from Washington, that Elijah Brady, who's highly touted freshman 3-star, he might be needed this year as well. I don't think Bobby's going to play a freshman, but man, if he has the talent, I think you got to play him. But where we have to, and I want your guys' thoughts as well. I think we've got to hit the portal for some cornerbacks to help us, because that's a glaring weakness in our defense.
Yeah, they might have to play Brady because they might not have a choice. I don't think they have cornerback 2 right now.
No,
I really don't. Corbin, I think, is really good, and he's going to be coming in with momentum and confidence being that guy. And he had the pick 6 against NDSU, and this is going to be his season. But you can't make up for.
Yeah, you can't replace Ford. I mean,
no, you just can't do it. And even Jaden, and he got beat most often last year because he got tested way more than anyone. He was the smallest guy in the field. He's technically your cornerback 3. They took shots at him, and for the most part, I thought he held up really, really well. And it's hard to quantify that until you see it on the field. They're going to take some shots this year, and they're going to lose out on some deep balls. But like Trevelyan and Simmons, from what I saw in the spring game, at least in the spring game, they were just kind of running around. I didn't see too much of an impact from either guy. I think if right now, like if it were me, you got to just give it to Gradney and give him a shot. He's made an impact, big impact on special teams.
Yeah.
And that's how guys find their way and find their niche. And, and he's been able to show that he can do it. So give him that promotion, give him a shot, see what he can do. I think that's where you have to start at least.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't try to find one more in the portal, but I agree. I think Gradney, give him a shot and see what happens. So,
and they were not supposed to, I shouldn't say supposed to, but they had a pretty good shot at getting Bilal Cohn, who was that transfer from Indiana State. Ended up going Western Michigan. He would have been great. I mean, he's an oversized cornerback too, and would have filled a huge hole, but now you're left looking.
So this is just a hypothetical. let's say, we don't get a cornerback in the portal. Could you, and this is just looking at our roster, you move Cotton to cornerback because he's played cornerback at, I believe, Washington State or maybe Oregon State. Oregon State.
Yeah.
He's played that position. You take a hit at safety, but at least you've got a lot of guys at safety.
We do have a lot of safeties, and that's what
Like
one of my
14.
thoughts was. We could see some movement there where if there's someone that has the speed and can, adapt to the position, then maybe we could move some of them. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't move some guys just because of the number of safeties we have and the lack at corner that we have.
Yeah, that's when I was seeing that, and just kind of my hypothetical. That's where I could kind of see. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. So, safeties, guys. You've got Jackson coming in from Akron. You've got Cotton. You've got Fouch, Graves, Lee, and then. So those guys we've seen those guys. A lot of those, I think. And do you guys know if Lee? I thought I had heard something that he was hurt. Is that
I didn't
accurate?
see him play.
You hadn't seen him. Okay,
so I'm not sure.
Okay, so I think that the safeties is pretty well locked down. That I think we've got some guys that have some experience, and I think that are really good in that position. Jackson, I'm kind of anxious to see what he can do coming from a pack or a high-powered team from Akron in the MAC. But interesting to see what they do with those guys and to see how they move those guys around. So what are your guys' thoughts on the safeties?
Yeah, I'll say this. All those funny guys on Facebook and Twitter who say, "Oh, I think Robbie Help just got rewarded with another tackle for this tweet." They're going to find out how big of an impact he actually had this season. Yeah. It's going to be very, very hard to replace him. And whether you think he earned all his tackles or not, he was always finishing off piles. He was always sticking guys and holding them up. And he just left it all out on the field every time he took his shot. He was a great guy too. It just bothers me when people say that kind of stuff, because in my opinion, the one season I saw, he earned it. He was a hard worker. And
he works his ass off, and he hits like his uncle did.
Yes, and he was in on every play. He was in on every play. So you're going to get a half tackle or an assist when you're on the pile every time. There was just, he laid it all out there. That's all you can say.
That's what I think we're going to miss the most, is that guy that's flying from sideline to sideline and just in his hiked up pants, just smoking people. I mean, he played so hard all the time.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big miss for us this year, because it's hard to replace that. But
I will say I'll admit he was pretty bad in coverage.
People
took their shots, and against NDSU, it was, I don't know if you remember. I think this is now that we're talking about him, I think of this, and I think it changed the whole aspect of the game, the whole momentum shift. But there was one play, it was right over the middle. It was like a fourth down or a deep third
catch that he did.
Right, and he's up here like this, and the guy just high points him, rips it down, first down. They end up getting a touchdown. I think that changed everything.
Oh yeah, that was the huge momentum switch right there. Yeah.
And that's kind of a little tangent. I'm not sitting here to rip on Robbie.
No, because at the same time, Robbie, during that Eastern game, the playoff game from not last year but 2 years ago, when he smoked what's his face. I mean, that changed they had that called the penalty, and then it was not a penalty, but that changed the momentum. I mean, that's the way he hit guys and stuff. He could get that defense fired up just from throwing his body at reckless abandonment across the field. So, for every, lack he had in the passing game, he made up for it tenfold in the run game.
Right. I think Graves this last year, though, you'll see a little bit of a boost. You're not going to get as good of a tackler as hard as a hitter, but he was pretty solid in coverage. Mm-hmm. There was times where they matched him up. He ended up in one-on-one situations with guys downfield and held his own. Particularly, I think it was the Weber State game where he had a couple pass breakups. Could be the wrong game. I'm trying to think, but he showed that he can defend in space. And Nash Fouch is an incredible hitter. I think he'll fill those shoes for Robbie. They got a lot of guys there. I'm interested to see what Jackson Jr. can do. I think they'll be good, but my whole thing is that again, hard to quantify. You won't be able to tell until the season starts, but it's going to be nearly impossible to place a guy like Robbie.
Yeah.
Well, and it's going to be really interesting to see. I don't know about you guys, but our schedule is going to play into how good we're going to be too, because it's going to look like we're better than probably we are right off the bat, because our first 5 games we're going to be favored by big time.
I hope so.
I would hope so too.
It's going to build their confidence, is what it's going to do.
We can't lose that Division II team, because if we do, man, that's going to be bad news. So, but linebacking crew, linebacker, Luke, you've said it too. I've heard it as well. Riley Wilson's going to surprise some people. Levi Janicaro, Braxton Hill. You got Flink, Terrell, Croy, Rosted. They've got all these guys that have seen some type of action either on special teams or they've gotten introduced. Like Janicaro had a huge role last year, which I think he kind of blossomed in, where I think he's going to even take a bigger role this year. Braxton, I hope he can take another step this year and stay healthy. I think that he kind of was that piece that we were missing throughout the year last year, where I think he kind of solidified that linebacker crew there. And so then we have Matthews as well, don't we? Still, Michael Matthews I can't remember off the top of my head.
I thought the roster. I thought he graduated, but
yeah, he graduated. Okay,
I thought he did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to remember off the top of my head, but we've got some great linebackers, and it does, like Luke, you said, it feels like we just continue to just next man up, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think will be our starting 3 linebackers, and could we be, seeing some type of formations where we see maybe an Edwards or a Hayden Harris be a part of the linebacker crew, where they drop a guy back and have 4?
Well, that's where I think we might see is that edge position linebacker that they have, where we might see Edwards out there, or some of these DNs put out there, where it's almost like a 4-3. I could see us running some more of that. But I mean, as far as the starting 3, I think you're going to have Wilson, Flink, and Janicaro as your starting 3, is my opinion at the moment.
Okay.
And then that 4th kind of hybrid DN, I'm not 100% sure on what we'll do there. Like I said, it could be some of these DNs or some of the other linebackers rotating in there. So,
okay,
I'm really excited on Wilson. Like, I've heard nothing but good things on that kid.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Levi and with who is the other? Oh, and Terrell. I think that or Riley and Levi. Sorry, I think they'll probably have Braxton as their as the 3rd starter.
Yeah, Hill. Sorry, there you go, Hill. I forget about Hill too. Yeah, So we have this rotation that's just going to be
exactly. You roll in guys like Flank and Terrell, and they got a really good linebacking crew again. But once again, I see why people say last year was a disappointment. Me being here for my first year and knowing the history, I didn't think 8-5 was bad. It was a good season. Went to second round, lost to the the runner up. It is what it is. But I know people expect more. But now I can see how it was a disappointment, because you lose Justin Ford, you lose the Big Sky's all-time leading tackler, then you lose Pat O'Connell, another NFL type player. These guys don't grow on trees. They had a really special defense that didn't live up to, I guess, expectation. Well, the defense was incredible, but the team was kind of living up to expectations, because, like I'm saying, they have a really good linebacking crew, but it just won't be as good as it was last year.
Yeah, well, we've been saying that for a couple of years now, is where the defense is playing at carrying the team, and it's nothing against the offense, but that there's been times where I think our defense scores more points than our offense does, and if we're not scoring on defense and not scoring on special teams, our offense has a hard time putting points up on the board. And we saw that a little bit better last year, but the year before, we were dependent on a score from the defense and a special team score. And if we're not, we're going to be pressed to find some points.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice to have long offensive drives sustained where defense can just rest? I mean, that would be, and that's what I'm hoping for. That's what we're talking. The offensive line is really good. Our running back core is good.
Yep.
It looks like Vidlak's the guy. I mean, he looks the part. So I'm thinking, okay, if we can get this offense where the offense is on the field and get our defense rest, watch out. I mean, we still have a lot of talent on defense. And if they're not on the field all the damn time, well, then, that could really show us some stuff. And like you said, the first 5 games, we should kick the crap out of all those teams.
We should.
And I'm hoping that we stay healthy. It builds the confidence. And then we roll into those other games and just keep dominating. So
you make a good point. Like, pound for pound, is the defense as good as it was last year? No. But situationally, they could be just as effective because you're going to have an offense that's going to be able to answer for you and give you some insurance, and you're going to be able to rest and play a little more carefree, not knowing that the game's in your hands 50% of the time. So they could be good this year. It's just going to depend on who steps into key roles, because there's glaring holes right now, but only time will tell.
Well, and one of the guys that I haven't heard from, the Iowa transfer, Wyatt Wagner or whatever, he was a big linebacker as well. Haven't really heard too much about him. We'll see. I think he's a redshirt sophomore, so he's got some years to kind of develop and stuff like that too. But interesting to see what happens there. One thing, guys, that's going to play a huge role this year is just getting our special teams up to snuff. Losing a Patrick Rohrback, a best punter in the whole league, it is going to hurt us, right? We really relied on him a lot to pin the other team back and let our defense go after them. And so that I could see as a huge thing that happens this year, is trying to find a punter that will give us, because honestly, you're not going to find a punter.
Yeah,
we've gotten 2 punters.
We have lightning strike 3 times in a row. FCS punter of the year twice in a row now, and they're gone. So
I don't think
I will say this too. I will say this: you should not need an elite punter.
Right. Yeah.
If your punter is one of your best players, you're in trouble.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Like, they just need a guy who can angle it out of bounds, drop them near the 20. Like, you're going to have a good offense.
We'll catch the snaps too. Catch the snap and get it off. That's what we need.
Like, it's not again, I've never done it, so I don't really know, but by the eye test, it's not a very difficult job. Catch the ball, kick it, and let the defense come on. Like,
don't do anything stupid.
Right, exactly. You're asked to do one thing, and you got to do it. You don't need someone elite when you're going to have an offense.
Okay, I have actually punted a ball. It's actually harder than it looks. So I was that guy in high school. So I don't think lightning's gonna strike 3 times. I hope we don't have to have an amazing punter, but I do think that I think Peibel has been putting the work in. I saw him on his Instagram or whatever, putting some work in at an elite camp, working on special teams and everything like that. So that's good to see. I think that we've got to get better, and I think we got better throughout the year, at the end of the year, with our field goal kicking, but we can't leave points on the board, especially with our defense the way it is. We can't leave points on the board or off the board as the way it is this year. So, guys, biggest takeaways, going from special teams, the biggest takeaways, hitting the transfer portal. We've probably seen this. Do you guys think we need a punter out of the transfer portal?
No.
Lucas, no?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Cornerback.
Again, I'm going back to it. I just think if you're bringing in another punter, you're just wasting a roster spot.
Yeah,
I agree. We don't need to waste that roster spot.
Yep. Cornerback.
Yes.
So I think you got to bring at least 2. That would be nice to have 2 in. If you get 1, you kind of solidify that other spot on the other side. But I think 2, you'd feel a lot more comfortable going into the season.
It feels to me like for the transfer portal from now until beginning of season, it's all defense.
Yeah,
I feel like we're set on offense. Like, I don't think we need to look there at all for trend. I mean, I know some people are going to be like, "Well, we need another quarterback." I think Chris Brown in Pease's system will be fine.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. But and we still haven't seen what Abbott or Hewitt can really do. But I think Brown as a junior will be fine in Pisa's system, and Vidlak is the guy. So where we really need help is the defense.
I will say people hit the panic button too fast, I think, especially last year. And it's mainly just social media, but people go crazy on there. And, I mean, Abbott was at Oregon.
Yeah.
He broke records in high school. Like these guys have time. Bobby doesn't like, and we've talked about it how many times on this podcast tonight, but Bobby doesn't like to throw guys into the fire. You just have to pay your dues in the system and work your way up. I think they have guys who are more than capable. And surprisingly, Hewitt, too, I thought maybe they would do a position change with him because he's just a great athlete.
Right.
But he looked
really good.
Semi-competent under center. So I think he could even be, an option someday down the road.
And his throwing mechanics are just so smooth too, as well. So, Luke, I had this on there to kind of go over because I've been hearing QB. I don't think you need to. Our biggest issue is not being able to develop a QB. We always go into the transfer portal. By doing that, you're just making things worse, I believe, further down the road. Don't use a spot on your roster for a QB. Go get a cornerback or a defensive line because, the 3-3-5, we have 14 safeties on the roster right now. 14. That's a ridiculous amount percentage-wise based off of your team. That's a huge for one position, and so knowing that you need some nose tackles on that defensive line, you've got to help that. You've got to help that area out because if you don't, you saw it last year with Governor getting hurt. You saw Alfred get hurt, and then and Todd and Todd, and so we have to help those guys out, and I just think that also if you don't get another guy. Governor's a rare talent. Like I don't think he gets the credit that I think he should deserve. Like he is a beast.
He gets the credit from the other coaches. They all say after the game. I mean, every time they got the coach from their team in that press conference, he's up there talking about Governor and how he's the real deal. So that's why I think he's just going to get nothing but double teams this year. I mean, I think they're all going to just throw two guys on him, which should free our linebackers up.
Yep.
So,
and I want to say one more thing, transitioning back to the offense. I think, Adam, you said something about it just a little bit ago here, but people are going to say, like, and Bobby even says it, it's the nature of college football. Quarterbacks are on the market, like a quarterback that can come in and start right away. But at the same time, you think about the spot that you're in, and this is to say, I didn't really have an answer earlier. I don't think they should bring in a quarterback in the portal because they have all their quarterbacks right now are young and can stay with the program. Yep. And if you continue to bring in now with who you have there, you're going to bring in a guy and start him over him right away. You're not showing any faith in your guys. Yep. You're just kind of showing them that in a way that they're not worth the investment or the time.
Right.
And someone can just walk in and take that starting job.
Yeah.
Any of them can earn it and work into it. It's a young group. There would be no reason to bring in a quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, and that I think that I don't know where I heard it, but Pease kind of mentioned it. Getting back to developing the quarterback position. Rosenbach. I think he's a great coach. I think that we did not develop. If you look at all the quarterbacks that they brought in, did any of those guys get better, or did they just stay the same? Like I don't see any development of the guys that got better.
Well, so many of them were just 1 year and done. It was like you come in like a hired gunslinger kind of. Where that's where I think Vidlak kind of is different. We were saying earlier he did his jumping around already. He's just a sophomore. I mean, we could have 3 years of this guy, so that's awesome. Huge. I mean, so we can develop him, and then. That's why I don't think we need anybody else. We can develop these guys underneath him, like the Ayats, the Hewitts, the Abbotts. I mean, we got lots of talent there. So,
right. If you think about, a senior Vidlak in this system for 3 years, playing with guys he's been playing with, he's got a good grip on it already. It's just something you have to trust the process with.
Agreed.
Exactly. Guys, realistic win-loss, going into the season next year. I know this is way too early, but your predictions of where we're going to be at.
Let me pull up the schedule here quick. I know I said something on Twitter about this before, but my math is bad. That's why I do right.
Just bringing up the schedule.
Where I had the wrong amount of games. I think originally I had said I think I see 2 losses on there.
Okay.
I'm going to look it up. I don't want to say it, but I think they're going to lose to MSU. I think they're going to lose to Idaho. Those 2 are for sure. I'm looking at the schedule right now. UC Davis will be a good game. I'm going to say I see 2 losses on there, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. I'm going to say 9-2.
Well, and then that Ferris State doesn't count, right? So it's a Division II. So Ferris State, you have to take that one out because I don't think it counts in our record.
I think it counts on the record. I don't think it
counts as our record.
Right. It just doesn't count into the playoff bid.
Okay. I always look at that. It's like that shouldn't count, but hey, that's just me. Luke, what do you think, man?
So I'm sitting at 9-2 as well. I don't think we're going to lose to the Cats at home. Just
there you go.
I can't say it, but the one team that I don't know about with my buddy Andy Thompson as head coach. Now I don't know what they're going to be like. Sac State.
Yep.
I don't know what they're going to look like. They could be good. They could be terrible. I just don't know with them. Idaho, I'm going to say it. I think they have the best chance of winning the conference this year.
Yeah.
They're bringing back a lot of people. They've totally flipped their program and stuff. So that game is one too that's one that scares me. I think the most. And then Davis is another one. What Davis team we're going to get? Last year they brought South Dakota State to the brink back in Brookings, and then we're at Davis.
Yeah, at Davis, at Moscow. Those are.
But I really think 9-2 is where we're going to be. I'm just not sure what the losses are. I mean, Idaho, maybe Davis.
I don't think Sac State. I mean, Sac State lost both of their quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's true.
And then UC Davis loses Alonzo Gilliam, who was their world running back.
Yeah.
He literally was like everything for them.
Yeah.
They do bring back their quarterback with UC Davis, and Sac State also did get a transfer quarterback camp. We played him. I think it was from South Dakota. So
if I take my maroon glasses off, our 2 biggest games are Idaho and Montana State. Our 2 technical rivalry games, and we only have one rival, but the Little Brownstein and the Brawl of the Wild are going to be the 2 biggest games. The rest of them we should win. So,
yeah, I think you depending on how Sac State is, I don't think we lose to them 4 times in a row.
Well, and we get them at home too.
And we get them at home. I don't think we're going to lose to them. It'll be interesting. This, Idaho, going to Idaho, playing that team. They've, Coach Eck has got that team rolling. I think they're only going to get better, and plus with. I think they bring back their 2 top receiving studs, Hayden Hatton and the other guy. UC Davis just going to California in that trip. They play some hard-nosed defense. They might have a running back that they kind of reload. I don't know. I think that we're looking at more 9-2. If we're 8-3, I think that could be on the bubble of a playoff.
I agree because of that dang
Ferris
State game. If we're 8-3, we're a question mark for the playoffs. So we need to be 9-2.
Yeah.
You mentioned the California trip being hard on the team. You should see how hard it was for us reporters. they have it nice and easy with the charter. I was on a flight to Seattle, and then a red-eye Seattle flight to Sacramento. We didn't get in until midnight. Same thing on the way back home. That trip was hell for us.
That's brutal.
That is.
I was glad to be there, but it was draining.
Oh, I bet. Players, that got your attention, guys. Mine, Hayden Harris got my attention, the UCLA defensive end on the defensive side. Sam, Vidlac, and then Fonts and Keelan White, and then Harris got my attention. Those were my players that kind of caught my eye. Any of them different than what I said, or you guys got any that caught your eye?
No, I saw someone on Twitter was saying, asking you what the top 5 was going to be.
Yeah, and we'll go into that. Yeah, yep.
Is that what we're doing right now, or is that...
No? I was just going to see which ones kind of caught your eye, and then we'll go into fan questions at the end.
Okay, for me, Harris, Vidlac, Janikero on the defense. He really, I kept noticing him. So
yeah.
Well, nothing new on my end. You guys kind of hit the big ones. The top 5 is going to be tough, but we'll get into that. I still got some time here.
Yeah. So, before we go into, the fan questions, but the indoor practice facility, what do you guys think? The dirt work, I believe, started April 10th. By all reports, I think that they're wanting to get it done by November to maybe hopefully be in and be working towards a playoff game. My thoughts are, I wish it could be a permanent structure, just because that bubble. I asked Hanson this. I don't know the weight of how much that can hold. I know Missoula gets some pretty wet snow. I know that we had and this is not the same thing, but we had a bubble where I went to college, and it was a tennis bubble, and it collapsed because of the weight of the snow that we got. And so it'll be interesting to see.
We used to have a tennis bubble in Missoula years ago.
Yeah.
For a long time, and it held up fine. So
fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Just I wish and I think that the neighbors down the road, I think they'll probably try to outdo us and probably get a permanent building just to kind of do that. But I think that they're working towards that. The NDSU god awful. Oh my goodness, $40-50 million facility. Just, oh my gosh, that's going to be an amazing facility. I just wish it was more permanent. Maybe that they start small and they build, more something permanent in the future. I don't know what that's going to look like.
The thing is, with what they're doing at the end there, we have like that permanent structure on the end, and the bubble attaches to it. So with that, eventually we could go up to some kind of permanent structure over where the bubble is. So I'm just glad that we're going to have something, because we need something, and not just for Grizz football, but like thinking about softball this year. All the snow we got. Those girls could play in there and stuff. And there's so many other things that'll
soccer.
That will be an advantage too. So we need to get it done sooner rather than later. And I hope they can get it done by November.
I think it's important, especially too. Like when I was at Pro Day, I was sending a video to my friend back home, and he's like, "Are they seriously doing that outside right now? They don't have an indoor facility. It's 30 degrees, and they're trying to run their 40." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And a couple days later, they announced that the facility's breaking ground in the facility, and I sent it to him, and he's like, ironic timing, but I think it'll be good for, aside from just football practice, being able to do events like that and all the other sports, being able to benefit from them. It'll be good for them in the arms race of just, you never know if they're going to move up conferences or not. I know it's been talked about for decades, but you got to.
It's an arms race. Exactly. That was a great metaphor. It is. It's an arms race.
Yep. Definitely. Well, let's get into the fan question. We had a fan question basically saying the top 5 players. Luke, do you want to go first on your top 5, or do you need some time? And
I've got mine ready if you want.
Okay. Go ahead.
Top 5, so I can think in the meantime. Are we talking?
He said top 5 Grizz to watch this season.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be like the 5 best players, just your top 5 to watch out for. So
let me give a shout out to who it was. Kodiak, Ultramarine at Ultramarine 1019. Just give us your order of the top 5 players to watch this season. So thanks for the question, man. Totally appreciate it. And thanks for participating. Luke, go ahead, man.
All right.
Top 5.
Here's my top 5.
All right.
And like I said, these aren't necessarily the best players necessarily, but they're my top 5 to watch for. And I kind of went all over the board here. So number 1, I don't know if he'll be our starting running back, but Xavier Harris. I just have a feeling after watching spring ball, he looks like he's hit the weight room. If he can be healthy, I think that guy can really, pun intended, be an X factor for us. Because he could catch the ball out of the backfield. There's just a lot of ways we can use that guy, and I think he's playing for a spot the way he was playing in the spring. 2 is probably going to be on everybody's list, Vidlac. Just from what I saw, I think that he's going to surprise a lot of people this coming fall with how good he can be. I think sky's the limit for that kid. Number 3, Journey Grimsrud. He came on late last year, but he's earned a starting position. I think he's just going to develop and get better and better as that in that guard position. So I think, and on offensive line, I think Journey Grimsrud's one to watch out for. So if you like watching O-line or line, that's one to watch. The other one on D-line, Henry Noose, I think he's going to have a huge year this year. I think he's going to be one of the ones to step up on the D and really make an impact for us this year. So another Montana kid, which is always cool too. So I just think that he's going to have a big year. And then number 5, didn't get to watch him yet, but that Riley Wilson, I think he's going to make a huge impact on our linebacking core and could possibly be one of the leaders on our defense for us. Just from what I'm hearing coming out of camp and just all the positivity around that kid, I'm excited to watch him. So that's my 5.
All right. Lucas, you want me to go first, or you want to get yours, man?
It's up to you. You can go ahead.
All right. Well, my top 5. My number 1, Aaron Fonz. I think he's had 2 great springs. I think that he is going to come out definitely this season. And I think that he's going to be needed too, just for that deep threat. He's shown flashes of it down last year as well. I think he's going to be the guy that is going to be one that is more open. Not to say that because they're going to have to look at Bergen, they're going to have to look at Grossman. I think he's going to get those catches where they're like, oh, crap, we just left him going down the field, right? Where those huge plays. My number 2, Levi Janicaro. I think, going off of last year to this year, I think he's bought in. I think he knows the position because he's switched over from, I believe, running back now. And he switched over a couple times, I believe, to that linebacking crew. I think that you're going to see great things from him. And then, Luke, I didn't know which one I wanted to pick. So since you said Xavier Harris, I'll say Eli Gilman.
All right.
Because I had both. I just think the duo that they have at running back, I think you can put probably anyone in there, Childs as well. But I liked what I saw. It wasn't great, like huge runs, but what they were doing, how they were doing, they were laying some pads down. They were continuing moving the pocket. Each of those guys, it took 2 or 3 guys to tackle them, which is awesome to see, and just the weight on them as well. Like Luke had as well, Sam Vidlac. It's hard not to just be wowed. And just some of the throws that he had, not playing football, because he didn't play at Oregon State. He battled in Boise State, but didn't really play. To be thrown in and play like that, man, it's a really great to see, and I can't wait to see him have a summer to kind of get with his guys and wide receiver crew and build even more, which I think they're just going to do too. And then, Luke said this as well, man. I think Chris Walker is going to take a step. I think, another year on the offensive line. I really do, with what I said earlier, I really do like this offensive line. I'm apprehensive. I just want to see it, right? I think that they have a ton of things going for them. Chris Walker is just a mountain man. And I want to see him just like take a couple guys and just throw them, right? I just could see that, dude. Oh my gosh. But that's my 5. What do you think, Lucas? What do you got?
Yeah, well, I'll just keep it simple here with Vidlac to start. Not much to be said. He's my number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go with Osmo. I know, Luke, you had Harris. I think with Osmo, they really unlocked something towards the end of the season. I remember putting out a tweet that said something like he's the college version of Christian McCaffrey. I think he had 2 receiving touchdowns and 2 running touchdowns. I think it was against Eastern Washington, granted the opponent, but they unlocked a whole new dynamic with him. Now you have those playmakers on the outside. You got your big men up the middle. You got the screen passes to the inside, and now you're going to be able to dump it off to him. There's just so many options I can go to. So Osmo, not even for his running impact, but how he can catch the ball out of the backfield.
Sure.
It's just a whole nother addition. Number 3, I'm going to go Ryan Simpson. We've talked about all these other guys for their speed and for their explosiveness, whatnot, just because, and Cole because of his size. But Ryan's the biggest guy out there.
Right.
And you saw him and Vidlak connect on that first touchdown in the spring game. He put it only where he could get it. Strong hands with a guy draped all over him. I think they should be doing a lot of that in the red zone this year. And when I did a story on him last year, we shook hands and my hand just was lost inside. just huge. I mean, they list him at 6'6". He is the full 6'6", maybe even more. I mean, he's huge. So I think he could have just a blow-up season for them if they use him the right way. Number 4, I'm going to go with Nash. They need Nash Fouch. They need somebody to bring the safety room some steadiness with the loss of Robbie, and I think he's going to be the guy who kind of I mean, they're totally different players, but can kind of assume the role that Robbie had as a hard hitter and your leader in that unit. So I'm looking at Nash for that. And then number 5, I'm going to go with Cale Edwards, a defensive line that's just depleted. I think he's going to be very important because in a sense, he's almost kind of an unknown. He's not. Everybody knows how promising he is. Everyone knows the physical tools he has. But because of injuries and just, different guys getting an opportunity last year, we didn't get to see a whole lot of him in action yet. So I'm looking for him to take all that positive reinforcement from others and show it on the field. So those are my top 5.
Nice. Well,
it's interesting with your top 5. I had multiples on them too. I was going back and forth. So, great list.
Yeah, I think we've covered pretty much every player. If we put our top 5 there, I think we've got everybody. But any last thoughts, guys? Last thoughts on spring game and what's to come?
No, I wish I could be covering it this year, but I'll definitely still be following along. So I appreciate you guys having me on here and being able to talk about it because I love it.
Yeah, well, my one thing is I just, and this comes from a lot of other people I talk to too. Lucas, we hope that you find a home here in Missoula covering Grizz football because we all appreciated your approach last year to it. I hear it from many other fans. Just it was refreshing getting your takes and stuff. So we all are hoping that somewhere, whether it's Skyline Sports or I don't know what, or Kent has them. Kent, come on, find a place for this guy.
Let's go.
We would love to have you back reporting for the Grizz.
Do we need to do a Twitter or Instagram just revolt, let's get Lucas a job here, Grizz Nation, call everybody,
get Lucas a job.
Get Lucas a job. Yeah, there you go.
With the Grizz though.
Exactly. Again, Lucas, I can't thank you enough for joining the pod with us, man, and talking Grizz. We value you a lot, man. Value your opinions and thoughts, and like Luke said, it was a breath of fresh air, and we wish you the best. And we'll have to have you on the pod again, man, and later on in the year, and we'll talk some sports. And we're all hoping that we see you again covering.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the kind words from both of you. It means a lot. I knew I had built a strong following with the Grizz fans and just a good relationship. I've appreciated everyone who's engaged with me, but the feedback I've gotten has blown me away. It's been really cool to see. So I appreciate it, and let me know when you need me back because I'll definitely be, following along. Whether I'm on the beat or not, some way I'll still be following along.
That's awesome, great. Man. We'll appreciate you and have a good one, man.
Thank you.